You're listening to Monday Madness.
I am very nervous. Very, very nervous. Not because of the chat I'm about to have with Geniene. I'm nervous because there is a storm brewing outside. Geniene, what's the weather like in Joburg? Because it's not looking good here.
It's not raining.
No, you know what the problem?
Just for a
You know
change.
what the problem is? This is the problem. Is in the area that I stay in, we are prone to getting our lights knocked out when there's a bit of lightning around. And it actually happened a couple of weeks ago on a Monday Madness as well, when I was talking to, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Felicia Pillay or someone. But halfway through the interview, boom, no power. Gone, done, finished. And we're having such a jaw.
Oh, my word.
So,
Well, you're fortunate today on the radio, on Actonville FM, we were actually reinstalling a new studio. And there they gave me this huge desk with all these buttons I have never seen before and said, okay, you're on. I was like, this is so cool. So we lost half the songs, we had half the news. I cut off two of the presenters in the middle of what they were saying because I had to push those buttons down. They were looking untidy.
oh dear.
Yeah, it was chaos.
When I was
So you can imagine what our show was like today.
when I was at the SABC and they did all the studios and stuff like that, they made us go for 2 weeks of training before we could actually switch over to the new studio. It was crazy. But that's what it's like nowadays.
You arrived, the whole thing had changed. The only thing that looked the same was the computer system that I was used to dealing with, except that you no longer had to mute it, you no longer had to put the microphone on and off, because of course you can imagine the backfeed that was coming on because I was pressing all the wrong buttons of what I was used to. So we had great fun. So thank heaven you had no interview schedule today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Monday Madness. I've known you for the best part of, what is it, 20 years at least?
It's nearly 20 years.
Nearly 20 years.
It's almost 20 years. I met you in 2003.
Yeah. But now, the thing is, what you probably don't know about me is that things have changed. I've become a little bit more cheeky than I was back then. Back then I was cheeky, but now I'm really cheeky.
Seriously, that changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got worse.
Okay.
but
I remember when I met you in 2003, you were kind of this really schmarky DJ, and you were just foisted upon me, as the words would say. And I was told, this is your DJ for the rest of the Intel trip. I was like, okay, I'm in. And actually, during that trip, we had so much fun. We had such a ball, and we really did, because we both used to being on radio, so it was easy enough to pass the mic around and give each other a break so that you could chase chicks. And
yes.
I could do the work.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that trip in a little bit, but I just want to say one thing is, okay, firstly, I've got to release the disclaimer. You need to understand that Monday Madness, I don't know if you've caught the show before, but it's unscripted, unplanned, no topic is off limits. There's language, you can use any language you want. That's why we do it at 8:30 in the evening. So relax. Hope you got a little beverage with you or something like that. But what the real warning that I need to give you is that in the second part, I always put my guest in a tight spot. Okay. So I'm going to let you sweat on that while we get into it. But at some part of this interview, I'm going to put you in a tight spot. I'm going to ask you some hard questions.
Okay.
And you're going to have to really give me proper answers. Are you still keen for this, or should we just wrap it up now?
Difficult. Absolutely.
So Geniene,
I think we're in.
You back on radio now. You were off radio for quite a while. What's it like being back? How much has the industry changed since the days you were on to today, for example?
Well, I think I was last on radio in about 2009. I then launched a magazine for the in-room magazine for City Lodge called Anytime Magazine, and I had so much fun with that. And I didn't have time to do both. So I had to focus on publishing, which is what I did. And after I finished with that, I basically went overseas, had a great jaunt overseas. It's like I was 17 again. And then I came back and really didn't know what to do. So as Keith always says, I'm the busiest unemployed person he knows.
You know,
so now that I'm back on air, sorry?
No, carry on.
No, I was going to say, and then when I saw the auditions for Actonville FM looking for radio talk show hosts, I was in. I mean, it's down the road from me. So I arrived and Kim said, well, clearly you have more experience than anyone else in this room, so which show would you like? So
nice.
She gave me the 9 to 12 slot, which works for my wake-up schedule.
Exactly.
I've never been an early riser. And I've started podcasting. I've done a lot of podcast interviews, and they've been really successful. So I love podcasting. It really suits my personality, and it suits my radio, you know, the fact that I love radio.
Don't you like the flexibility that you get with like online platforms and podcasts and stuff like that? Because that's what I like about what I do now as opposed to what I used to do on FM radio, for example. I've got so much more flexibility to create the content I want to create and deliver it in the way I want to deliver it.
Well, I think the thing I like most is I'm not interrupted by commercials or things like that, because after I've recorded the show, that's when I break it up for commercials. So I don't have this need to go to a commercial if it's 13 or 15 minutes. So I'm able to be flexible in what I ask. The show, the podcast can either be flighted on the radio or not. But a lot of the community radio stations have now asked me for my shows and for my interviews, because I've interviewed some really great guys like you. I know half the industry because we were all young together and we've all grown up into the most amazing human beings, even if I have to say so myself.
I would agree.
The result is now I'm able to pick up the phone and just call somebody and they go, hi, Geniene, sure, I'd love to be interviewed by you. You're a really good interviewer. So I think having gained the respect through the magazine and in my previous radio shows, I'm very pleased to say that I've enjoyed podcasting. I mean, just like you, it's amazing what you can do now. And this, by the way, is my first Zoom call.
Your first?
Zoom call.
Okay, nice. Welcome
I've never
to the club.
done a Zoom call before.
welcome to the industry standard.
I know, but I have a face for radio, not for Zoom calls.
Geniene, I was a little bit earlier this evening when, just before you joined me, I said in one of my links, I said that you taught me one of the biggest lessons that I've always really appreciated in life. And I don't know if you will recall, I think we were in Port Elizabeth and we had a rain day on this trip, and we were running around looking for a mall to do our business in. And I remember we landed up we landed up in this mall that was dead. It was like quiet. There was like nobody there.
It was East London. It was East London.
Oh, was it East London? Yeah.
That's where Pearl Jam came. Yes.
And anyway, so we pretty much stood around the whole time talking, and I will never forget the words you said to me. I think it was on that day, but you said to me, "No, my philosophy in life is if somebody asks me if I can do it, I say yes. If I can't, I find somebody that can, but I always say yes." And that philosophy has stuck with me throughout my whole life and throughout my career till today. Do you still feel the same?
I think that's for all of us. That for all of us has always been something that I think, especially for me, because I learned that you always have the ability to do something, but if you don't get the chance to do it, you never will. And most of us aren't brave enough. We aren't brave enough to say yes, because you think to yourself, I really can do that. But if I say yes and I can't do it, what then? For me, there was always going to be somebody who could anyway. So why the hell not? So I'm so glad you think the way I do. But I think every time we've seen each other, we've always compared notes, and we're always back in the same space where we're always doing what we love. Whether it pays or not is not always the issue. It's what we love to do the most.
Who needs money
And that's
anyway?
why we'll end this life. Exactly. We'll end this life skidding into that grave, knowing that we've done absolutely everything we've wanted to do. I've been from a radio presenter, and I mean, I was never taught in radio. I just love to talk shit.
Yeah.
I was a radio presenter. I wanted to always publish my own magazine, so I left being a project manager for Siemens to start my own little piece of toilet paper. If you'd seen that first issue, you would have wondered how anybody would have bought advertising in that piece of toilet paper. But it was mine, and I started it, and it was what I wanted to do. And I published for a long time.
You did,
But
because
then I decided to go to England.
yeah, but just talk about the publishing for
England, and I always
talking about the publishing for a second. We'll talk about England now, but let's just talk about that publishing, because I think you started with a magazine called Style in IT, if I remember correctly. That was the magazine.
Do you remember that?
Yes, because that's the magazine that we were touring with at the time. And then you started Anytime, which was a real step up from then.
No,
And-
you missed a step. You missed
Did
a
I?
step. My first piece of toilet paper was called Leisure in IT, which was the idea was to take, because I've been in the IT industry for so long, was to take those guys and send them to wonderful places that they could report back on and they could do conferences. Then I came up with the name Style in IT, and then we had Style in IT, and that's when we did the road show.
Yes, I remember. And then Anytime magazine came along, and that was like Style in IT was a magazine. It was a nice casual magazine, but Anytime became a monster. It became like any other, like a cosmopolitan almost. It was like a serious magazine. I mean, you had a whole bunch of staff running stuff. I wrote a few articles for you as well. It was an incredible magazine, and you built it up into something really big. Do you miss the publishing days? Because, I mean, you really did a great job.
You know, some days I do. What I don't miss are the deadlines.
Yeah.
You know, when you're on absolute deadline and you know that they have to get out, and the guy supplied you with a photograph that he's taken off his website. So the difference between a 79 kilobyte file and a 790 megabyte file is huge.
Yeah.
And the more you try and convince him that his photo is going to be pixelated, the more he doesn't remember that you actually, that's the problem. So, and then you have your designer who says he knows better. And after all, he's the kingpin of design. So that photograph that I took of the staff doesn't fit with his design. So therefore, he is not using it. Actually, Bud, you are using it, because I promised the staff of that hotel that their photograph would be in this Yes, but it doesn't fit with my design. And then you find that the upload has got an issue because the one page is blank, and we've already printed 24,000 copies. And why is it blank? Well, the printer thought it was supposed to be that way, and the designer thought the printer was going to upload the ad. So let me think, do I miss those days?
No, you don't really.
I miss the fun, but not the deadline.
You could have just said no.
But what's the fun in that? You have to know why somebody misses something or why somebody doesn't. I think I loved writing, and that's why I wanted to publish. But eventually I found that I wrote less and less. And I had to publish. I spent my months worrying about advertisers and what they wanted and where they had to fit. And I always try to make people happy. So I never wanted an advertiser to call and whinge. I wanted him always to phone and smile, because he loved the article, he loved the placement of his ad. And that's really what made the difference to me. Having started a number of them, I did a magazine for Forever Resorts called Forever. I wrote one, Forever Fun, I think. I did one for a teen magazine called Break. I wanted to be this publishing mega mania until I had 5 deadlines in 1 month.
Yeah.
That's when I thought, I don't think so. And I just, when City Lodge went green and the magazine stopped, I just called it a day and decided I needed to breathe after that. But I did enjoy it though.
What drives you?
Now I tell my stories online.
What drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
I think for me, it's getting up and making a difference in somebody else's life. If I can make a difference in one person's life every day, then you know what, I've really done a good deed. And I think when I get up and I go to the radio station and people phone and say, love the music, or love your last interview, or you interview somebody who started as a hawker on the corner of a street in Joburg and has now got their own restaurant, and you think, those are the people that make a difference to all of us because they're inspirational. They never gave up. And why should we? And
that's
I think
effectively...
that's what always, and something new.
And that's effectively what you do now. You actually are putting normal, average people on air and telling their story, as opposed to, you know, what a lot of mainstream stations do is just try to get the celebrities to draw the numbers so that they've got a bigger listenership. You're actually giving the people, the real people in the street, the guys that have done something significant with their lives. It might be insignificant in the greater scheme of the world, but in their life and their community, they made such a big difference. And you taking these people and throwing them into the spotlight and telling their story to a certain degree.
I think everyone has a story to tell, and it's just who wants to listen. My kids always used to say, that person's told you that story before, why do you still listen? I said, because you know what, to them it's a new story, and to me, there's always a different spin on it. So it's how you tell the story. I mean, he's the head of the Mots, and the Mots guys are all ex-servicemen. And let me tell you, there are still stories they're telling me that I haven't heard before. And most of them are either interesting, fun, or they are hard to hear. But every person on this planet has a story to tell, and somebody wants to listen to it. So you know what? We take the stories and we try and teach people that when that person passes away, that story is gone. The story is now gone. There is no one left to tell it. So it's very important that everybody gets a chance to tell a story, and that for me is amazing. It's my friends and being able to talk to people. I have a blog called Life is a Beach. And on my Life is a Beach, I tell my woes, whether they're funny stories, long stories. My sister always says, I can't read that, it's just too long. So, but you know what? I find people, I say things that people haven't got the ability to say. I've got a way with words that they can't put into words what they want to say. So when I say it, they go, but that's how I feel. I wish I could say it the way you do. And that's what makes the difference, is I'm making a difference in so many people's lives, being able to put in words what they can't.
One of the most amazing things that I ever thought you did was deciding to become a gypsy and get on a plane. Oh, are you there? You disappeared for a second.
Yes.
You decided to become a gypsy and jump on a plane and go to the UK, and I think you went and slept on someone's couch for a while, and you were getting yourself going. And what was the thinking behind that? What was the idea when you just decided, that's it, I'm jumping on a plane, I'm going, I'm gone? And what did you do while you were there? What did you get up to?
Well, you know, I was robbed again, and you know, I just had enough. I'd been hijacked twice, was in a bank robbery. Somebody then stole my phone. I thought, that's it. I'm using my Irish passport and I'm out of here. So I got on a plane, said to Keith, I'll see you over there. So he was going to stay behind. My mom, my sister, we all lived together with my dogs. And I said, I'll see you in England. So off I went. And of course, when I got there, I stayed with the kids for a short while, just finding my feet and finding a job. And I was a waitress in a restaurant. And I always said I would never be a waitress. And my daughter opened a restaurant and she said, listen, do you want to be a waitress? I was like, I'm there. So I sold wills in malls during the day. I would ask people if they wanted to sign up for wills. And at night, I went to be a waitress, and on the weekends. And you know what? I found myself, I absolutely loved it, because I was able to talk to people and promote my blog at the same time. But people they just were drawn to me, and I just loved talking to them. And you know, if I made a mistake, They tipped well. I mean, people love tipping. They say, if you're not here when I come back next time, I'm not going to eat here. You have to be here. Because I always had a story. Whatever they were eating, I had a story about. Whatever happened that day, I had a story. And then I decided I wanted to go and be a delivery person for Amazon, because I needed to try delivering 100 parcels a day, nogal, in like England, where I'd never driven before. So I went and drove for Amazon for a while, and I was always their top dog until I got offered the job of being a tea girl at a law firm in the middle of London. And I thought, that's something I've never done, but I'll always be the best tea girl there is. And I promise you, I loved it. I was there for 6 weeks. I slept in my car because I had nowhere to sleep in London. So I just had this little car that leaked. And you know what? I decided 6 weeks, I'm cool. Slept in my car. And I had the best fun ever because they had all these quiet please signs I only saw the day I left. And I used to rattle this trolley around, spill milk, because of course as the trolley hit the corner, because I was late as always, all the milk would go off, and of course picking up the milk, then I'd forget to open the coffee lid as the coffee was falling in. Let me tell you, it's not easy being a tea girl. But when I left, they gave me a farewell party, and such a lovely reference, they really did, as their person came back. I then went up into Birmingham to go and deliver Lucozade for Lucozade. I had my postman Pat van. I had to visit 600 stores a week, loaded my van, and you know what was the best part? Is they told us our target was 60 cases a week. So after my second week, I was on 150 cases by day 2, because most of the convenience guys were Pakistani guys, and they loved to chat, and they'd always buy all my stock. So, and I always had a case that they could test. I had a bottle or two in my car, and I always used to say to them, yeah, try it, see if you like the strawberry and watermelon. So they enjoyed my visit. And then they phoned me from head office and said, could I please not sell so much because the 12-year-olds in the office have got a problem. They can't keep up with the sales. Could I stick to the 60 mark? I was like, no, you're serious. Like, yes, I'm serious. So after a couple of days of staying at home and not knowing what to do, I went back to selling my 150 and thought, you know what, just cope with it. And then I went to live in Aldermaston because I was offered a job on a golf course, which I hated because it was just one job. I didn't like having one job. I wanted lots of jobs. This one was just going to work every day.
Working on a golf course must be a joy, man.
Going to work every day. Then I took a job at a pub at the same time because I loved the pub, and I got my bar license, and I lived in a gypsy caravan park. So
Sure.
myself and a South African friend took a caravan in a gypsy caravan park, and everybody was like, aren't you scared? Like, no, we come from South Africa.
Yeah, man, what's to worry about? I've got to ask you this question, Geniene. I need to ask you this question. Okay, you were over there in the UK doing menial jobs. Now, I use the term menial very, very loosely because in South Africa, people might look down on someone delivering Lucozade as just someone delivering Lucozade, or a tea girl, and say, okay, well, yeah, it's just a tea girl, or a waitress. You know, there's certain jobs that people may look down on. In South Africa, is the mentality in the UK the same, or are you considered a professional in your field no matter what you do?
No, I think they also had this habit of sort of looking down their nose until, for me, I suppose because I was older, that they had a greater deal of respect for me, and I was always fun anyway, because I mean, I think my personality is such that whatever job I take, you can't possibly look down on me. You can only look forward to seeing me again. So I think that for me is what any job's about.
I love that. Oh dear.
What's nice about there is you earn more money being a temp than you would, and it goes back to what we said earlier. You don't know you can do something until you've tried it.
Yeah.
And that's when you know you're at your best. I did a job at Ascot Racecourse, and when I got there, you had to put a 25-kilogram keg on your back and squirt beer out of the keg into a glass, and you served it amongst the crowd.
Oh dear.
I think I got through 8 kegs before I gave up. And the guy who handled our money, when I went in, he said, thanks to you, I lost a bet today. And I said, what was that? He said, we took a bet that you would be the first one to stop. He said, but actually, you're the last.
Never.
Said, well done. I said, well, I don't give up. I was paid to do a job.
One thing I've learned is you never bet against Geniene Preston, ever. Never bet against her. Ever. If she's going to take it on, she's going to make it happen. Do you know what another fond memory I have? Another fond memory I have with you is when we went to Zambia. I think we went to Livingston, right? We stayed at the Royal Livingston.
Correct.
Oh,
Royal
man.
Livingston.
That was a joel.
It was a jewel of note. But wherever we've gone together, it's been a joy. Let's be honest. We make the party.
But I learned another big lesson, or maybe not a big lesson. I learned something about myself that on that trip, and I always fancied myself as someone who might dabble a little bit in comedy and stuff like that. And I remember flying to Zambia, and I was still making notes for the comedy that I was going to do and stuff like that. And then I think on that first night, we got up and everybody's sitting around, and I start, and I realized within 3 seconds that I'm not a comedian. I learned that lesson so hard on that trip.
But you're naturally a comedian.
No, man, I was going to deliver awesome content, and everybody sat there looking at me like, can you not rather play us a nice song? And that was a turning point in my career right there.
Well, one of the interesting things was on that trip, one of the girls in our group heard about Susie and Chuma, who were the couple of guys who carried David Livingstone's body from where he died, where Rolex Magnum had left him, to Livingston, to the seaport. In fact, they carried him to the seaport, and she said, she interpreted the story, and she said, Susie and Chuma were the 2 guys who carried David Livingstone to the airport so they could fly him home. I don't know. There were no airports in those days.
There was no airport back then.
And she was quite bewildered.
There was barely an airport when we went there.
Totally bewildered. So yeah, it was quite funny actually. I told that story on Sunday. I didn't realize that I'd hidden it for so long, but now that you brought it up, I had to share it.
Now, do you miss traveling like that? Because you did a lot of that. I remember we traveled the country. We went across the country. I think we were doing the Chevrolet campaigns at some point. It was crazy. We actually traveled the whole country a lot. And do you miss those days?
I must admit, I counted the countries I've visited so far, and it was 84. So I'm on 84 countries. I have 16 to go before I get to 100. And I do miss the traveling, but I think because I did so much of it, now I'm just enjoying the telling of the stories of the things I learned while I was traveling. I mean, there's just so many. I don't even sometimes know where to start, where they're just flashes of memory. But I think once Keith retires next year, it's back to traveling again, because now that I'm podcasting, I can pretty much podcast from anywhere. And I think that's going to be my learning curve this year, is to do good interviews and to do them as podcasts and then send them out to whoever wants to listen.
Right, we're going to take a little music break. When we come back, we're going to get a little bit more serious, and I'm going to put you in that tight corner that I promised you that I would put you in. So if you need to top up your drink or get a tequila or something, now's the time to do it. Energized. All right, so you're ready for this. Awesome. We'll be back with Geniene in just a little bit.
You're listening to Monday Madness.
Right, Monday Madness, and of course, that's what we do on a Monday. We have a guest, and we spend some time with some quality people on the show, and there is very few that have any more quality than Geniene Preston. Geniene, welcome back. Did you get your little shot of something? You're good to go?
No, I just got energized, and Keith said he'll make me a cup of coffee. Sure. I had an op in January, and I'm not allowed to drink, so be it.
Let's talk about Keith for a second. Now, Keith is one of my favorite humans. Seriously, he's such a gentle soul and such a nice guy, and I think he is the perfect person to be in a relationship with you. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
I don't know if he thinks so.
But you're like this real energizer bunny, and you got no stopping. No filter. And and Keith is just there with you, like, cool, got this with you, help you. And I remember when we were touring as well, Keith was like, wow, what a pillar of support for the tour. If we didn't have a backbone like someone like Keith who would do the running around and do the horrible stuff, you know, I don't think the tours would have been as good as what they were.
No, you're absolutely right. And I always refer to him as my current husband because, you know, he's number 3. So I think definitely was third time lucky. So, and my father and mother just loved him. They absolutely adored him. So, you know, my dad always said that if I ever left Keith, he was going to live with Keith. So sorry for you. So there was no doubt that he was ever going to live with me. So I think Keith is, he's still around, and I'm always surprised that he is. I think so is my friends and family.
It's time to put you in a little bit of a tight spot now. And, you know, I don't really prep it. You know, I don't really plan what I'm going to ask. You know, I follow the course of the conversation and sort of pick up on points here and there, and I think, okay, well, we can go political with this guest, or we can go emotional and whatever. What I want to ask you now is, you've never really been, to my knowledge. Wait, I need the glasses. I've got to put the glasses on, because when I ask a serious question, I need to put the glasses on, if I can get them on. Yeah. Right.
Okay, you got your scientist glasses on.
Yeah. And I sort of like drop them a little bit like this, just so that you can see I'm being really serious.
Okay.
You're on my couch now. What is it about South Africa that we can't get right? We just cannot get it right. And I know that you've always been sort of vocal about certain things in the country and stuff, whatever, and you got fed up and you went off to the UK, and you're back now, but I don't think you love the country any more than you did before you left. What is it about this country? And be brutally honest and blunt. What is it about this country that really irks you?
The politicians.
As individuals?
Frankly, I think normal people in this country, the people that I come across day to day, everyday people, the people I meet at the market, because, you know, I sell the dips on the weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, the market vendors that I stand next to, you know, all we want is a good life. We love this country because it's beautiful and we have such stunning weather. We really have, on the whole, good roads, unless you're in Pilgrim's Rest and the holes are bigger than the trees. But I mean, other than that, we actually have an amazing country. So all we want to do is feed our kids, educate them, have a home, and live a good life. Whether we're earning 60 gazillion million rand or whether we earn 1,000 rand, we just want to be treated right. We want equal rights. And by equal, I mean whether you're a vendor or whether you're a CEO. I mean, in the UK, it doesn't matter. There are CEOs driving forklifts. And we are all, the playing fields are leveled. So all we want to do here is level the playing field and stop with corruption. Stop taking what doesn't belong to you. From the crime where they take things that doesn't belong to them. And let me tell you, there's crime around the world. We just make ours vocal. There overseas, it's a little more subdued, but it's just as right. So every country has its issues. And if I look at my time overseas, I look at the 12-year-olds that are running the country with technology, and they've got no idea how to treat a person or how to be a person, because they just consider technology to be the end all and be all of everything. I look at this country and I look at the vendors I stand next to, and let me tell you, they've got no technology in mind. They have an old cracked phone that does WhatsApp, that sends their messages, and they're happy as Larry because they've got data. I think data is another problem in this country, but if I could make the data free, we'd have a wonderful country. And for me, it's about the politicians. If the politicians kept their hands out of the coffers, as it were, and the criminals kept their hands off my stuff, we'd actually have a perfect country, to be honest.
Do you think it's the individuals, the personnel per se, or do you think it is more a mentality within the political party that they are affiliated with?
No, I think it's definitely the person who's used to taking what doesn't belong to him, because it has to be a person. The person has to sign the check. The person has to sign the transfer. The person has to sign off the tender. It's a person. It's actually, and the culture is by that person is permeated throughout the party. And I don't know if it's just a party thing or a government thing. But for my part, you know what? Just keep your hands out of the till. And if you can keep your hands out of the till and spend it on things like fixing the roads in Pilgrim's Rest, well, you know what? We'd have a damn fine country. And I still think we do. I still love this country. Why do you think I came back and stayed?
No, of course.
And I didn't go back. Irish passport and all.
But just reiterating on the facts, or on the point I was making, we have got so many politicians who are now under the spotlight and have been under the spotlight for having their hand in the cookie jar, so to say. They all belong to the same party. So I ask you again, do you think it is a party mentality, or is it just the individuals?
No, it's an individual. I had an interview with Blaine Duvenage from Outer, and he also stipulated it may be a culture, but it is still the person who is to blame and therefore must be held accountable. The person who took that money, the person who found that tender, the person, you know what, you can be in a mentality of total disrespect and total disparity. But it doesn't mean to say that you have to follow that mentality. You have a brain, you have the ability to think for yourself, and if you choose to follow that mentality, that is your choice. Therefore, it comes down to the fact that it's an individual that needs to be held accountable. Same as the chick from the SAA. She's now being held accountable for being a really bad director. Because before, you could say, oh, sorry, pay me my 23 million like they did with Eskom, and I'll go away. Give me my little golden handshake, and listen, I'll go away. Now the guys are saying, sorry, no more handshakes. You're now going to be held accountable for the mistakes that you made, and deliberate mistakes for what you made and for what you've done. You're now going to be held accountable. I mean, how long it's going to take in the court, heaven only knows. But at the end of the day, Wayne and his team are making an effort to weed out corruption. If you look at the toll gates, did you watch the toll gate thing on Sunday with Carte Blanche?
No, I missed it
back to
this
those
week.
sanctions standing there being beautiful. I mean, and again, it's back to corruption. Somebody was paid off to buy those things from Australia, where again it didn't work. But they brought it here, and somebody was paid off.
Well, I mean,
really.
We've seen so many incidents like that. We saw it with the car train when they bought trains that didn't fit the tracks. We've seen it with...
that was funny.
I know.
How do you not measure?
We've seen it with the toll gates now, for example, and stuff like that. It's just been crazy. And I was reading an article the other day, and you might appreciate this because I remember that you were very much involved with the tourism industry at the time and SAA and so on. So SAA are buying in bottled water at like 18 Rand a bottle. Okay. Which is being bought from a BE company that is buying it in at 5 Rand a bottle. So we are losing 12, 13 Rand. SAA is, they're paying 12, 13 Rand more for a bottle of water because there's a government mandated BE company in between that is between SAA and the supplier. And I just think that is ridiculous.
Well, it's wrong. It's so wrong. If they had if they'd done some investigation, they could put in a water filter that actually can filter the water to the point where it can be bottled. They can do it in their offices. They can do things to save money. I'll give you an example. I got into PPE quite by accident. And I can't remember what the accident was, but it must have been a real bad one. Because it never made me any money, and I spent hours on it. It was seriously horrible. But even in the PPE space, there were guys phoning us and asking us for the price of gloves. So let's say it was 135 Rand for a box of nitrile gloves. And I'd say to them, okay, so we have to invoice the end user so that you can get your commission. What are you invoicing them? Oh, no, it's government. We're invoicing 155.
Oh, yeah.
But that's 20 Rand extra box. Oh, yes, but it's fine. They'll sign off the tender because the tender guy will get his bit and we'll get ours. We wiped out. We said, we're not getting involved. Sorry, put the phone down and walked away. But it wasn't the only occasion. There were lots of occasions like that where it was, you know what, give us this. And you know what was my favorite? I have to share this. The guys would want 1 billion boxes of nitrile gloves. Now, just think about the size of a box of gloves and think
How
about
many zeros are there in a billion?
And where are you storing this? to storing this where, and they used to refer to it as 1B. They'd send me a message and say, looking for 1B. Then I'd write back and say, what's 1B? Is it 1C or 1D? Or where, what happened to 1A? And they'd say, no, I mean 1 billion. And I'd say, oh, please. Please.
Oh.
You know what?
Do you think
those B's and M's?
Do you think we're moving in the right direction, though? Do you think the way that the Zondo Commission is going now, and Ace Magashule landing up in court now, do you think we're moving in the right direction? Even the president has been fingered a little bit.
But it's going to be your children's generation will see the change as they get older when they have kids. That's when the changes will really start to impact. While you and I are alive, and while we're kind of in this space, it's not going to happen in our lifetime, because there has to be a generational change as the youngsters now leave varsity and they see that they can't really vote for the same. It's not a black-white issue anymore. It's not a racial. We are all South African. It's about who we are as South Africans and how are we going to overcome that. You can see now, even with the strikes, the guys in Midrand had no water for a week. So they blocked the entire highway. That was the only way they could get somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And if they just listened in the first place, most of our municipalities are now being taken over by mayors. In other words, the mayor is no longer going to be associated by a party. He's going to be associated by being voted in by the people of the town. Whatever his political affiliations are, they're not going to be the reason he stands. So he will stand as a Noel Johnson. In fact, we'll give you a name called, I don't know. But what do you want your town to be called?
Talking about all the name changes. If I had a town, I would.
Don't you love the PE one?
If I had a town, I would change its name to Serenity. I don't care what it is. I don't care which town it is. Give me Bloemfontein. I'll change Bloemfontein. I'll call it Serenity. I'm sure those Afrikaans folk over there are going to love me for it.
They couldn't pronounce it. But now, I spoke to a guy. I spoke to a vendor at the market the other day. His name was Timothy from Ndozi, and he had a theory. He said, why don't they change the name of the town to something odd? Because clearly the kids that are growing up don't know the people that these towns are being named after, even the streets. They have
I would love to grow up in a town. Geniene, I want to grow up in a town. When I come back and live my life again, I want to grow up in a town called Peanut Butter. Peanut butter.
Peanut butter's good. So's jelly.
Exactly.
I mean, if you think about it, Port Elizabeth should have been called Dolphin Bay.
Why?
It's got dolphins.
So does Durban.
Because a dolphin's not got no affiliation, and you can pronounce it. Foreigner can pronounce it.
I still like peanut butter.
I mean, what's he going to say? I want to fly to, what the hell, I'll fly to George.
All right, glasses off.
What's going to happen?
Glasses off. Geniene, one thing I've noticed about you in all the years that I've known you is that you can get upset, but you generally don't get upset. You like look at a situation and you say, okay, what are we going to do about it? It's not a case of like, oh, woe's me. You actually just look at a situation and say, what the hell? What are we going to do about it? Is that an accurate assessment? Is that your life philosophy? Is that how you do it? Do you just get on with it and get it fixed and sort it out? Or do you actually go cry in the corner for a little bit first and then then do stuff?
Quite honestly, I'm a very emotional person and I cry really easily, especially when my feelings are hurt. When you hurt my heart, that's when I cry. And I can take things from most people, but being hurt by those I love or those that are friends, it really hurts. But the interesting thing is, as Keith always says, he doesn't want to get on the wrong side of me because, boy, am I vengeful. So well, if I'm hurt or you hurt me and I block you on my phone and I block you out of my life, you're gone. There's no coming back from that. But if there's a situation that needs fixing, I always think I would rather ask forgiveness than ask permission when it comes to sort of doing something. But no, I don't know. In some situations, I'm pretty vengeful.
Okay. Now that you mentioned,
laugh out of how I can piss you off.
you mentioned this whole blocking thing. Okay. I really was vehemently opposed to this philosophy, and it has changed over time. I don't see the logic and get the point of blocking someone on WhatsApp and Facebook and all of the above. For me, it's like, build a bridge, get over it, but you can still be friends afterwards. And now I'm talking about relationships, but also outside of intimate relationships, even business relationships. One of my working partners got upset with me and they blocked me, just like that. And I'm like, but we still got an event in 2 weeks' time, and now you just block me. What is with the blocking?
Ouch. I think for me, if I forgive you, it opens the door for you to do it again, because then you just think you can hurt me again and I'll forgive you again.
Hang on.
This way, you're out of my mind, out of my sight.
Hang on, I'll put in the glasses back on. All right, hang on. So, let me get this right. So, if you forgive someone, you're opening the door for them to do it again. Do you think that is real forgiveness, though?
Well, if you forgive somebody and you say it's really okay, I'm telling you, it's not long before they do it again, because they say, oh, she forgave me the first time, she'll forgive me again. It doesn't work that way. You can only hurt me so many times before, for me, it's over. The bridge is gone, the bridge is broken, it's time to move on.
Okay, so you're the type of person, it's a good trait. You'll give people chances and chances and chances until they come to a point where it's enough. Enough is enough. And then it's blocking and finished and everything.
I'll forgive you once or twice. But after that, I really don't have any more time for you, because you can't keep hurting me. I can't keep giving you that part of myself that allows you to hurt me. As you know, I lost my daughter 23 years ago. And that was the worst that could happen to anyone, including me. But because that happened to me, anything else really is, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Nothing is as hard as that. But if you keep hurting me, it's a case of looking at it and saying, you know what, you can't keep doing this. You have to be nice to me at some point. You have to love me. You have to want to be with me. If you want to be on my WhatsApp list, if you want to be on my Facebook page, you're going to have to want to interact with me. You actually can't not interact with me. And in order to do that, I just say, you know what, I think our time is over. Our time has reached its end. But you can always listen to me on radio.
Yeah.
You want to hear my voice?
What do you do?
Revenge couldn't get better, because you still hear me on radio.
What do you do for fun, Geniene? What do you do to unwind?
What do I do for fun?
Yeah. What do you do just to let your hair down a little bit?
And listen to Audible Books, the crime channel. Audible Books have got the most amazing podcasts on crime. So I listen to the Ponzi schemes, and I listen to the dark web, and I love listening to podcasts because they got different voices. I just can't listen to the books, because have you ever tried to listen to a book of 365 pages with the same arsehole's voice that you don't like in the beginning?
Painful.
Now you have to listen to your favorite book? No. So Matthew, my son, gave me Audible Books for Christmas, and I'm very delighted to say that I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed listening to the podcast, because once I got tired of choosing books, then listening to the first few pages and thinking, I can't do this, and that I couldn't deal with. So yeah, I do that, and I write recipe books, and I cook dips. That's my happy space when I go into the kitchen, and Keith just knows you may as well just close up the kitchen, because at the end of it, there's more dishes in that mound than there is in a restaurant kitchen.
Yeah.
But I love making my dips. It's my favorite thing.
But don't worry, you've got Keith to wash the dishes.
Sadly, no. But I do make our helper comes on a Saturday, so she does the dishes. I make them on a Friday.
Geniene, if you could give somebody, a youngster, a young girl, because of course today is International Women's Day as well. If you could speak to a 12-year-old young girl who is just heading towards high school, and she wants to know how to make it in life, what would your answer be?
Oh my word.
I never said it was going to be easy.
And I know that I think it's more about following your heart because, but the only problem is your heart doesn't always pay the bills. So you have to kind of think, how am I going to pay the bills? And that's really what the challenge is. But you have to do something you love. And you often don't know what you love until you've tried it all. So when you're 12 and you're facing your high school years, find odd jobs that you can do during those. If you want to, like you'll wake up one day and think, I want to be a photographer. Find a photographer that you can shadow or go and work in his shop for free for a weekend or two. And I promise you, after that, you'll decide, do I want to do this or don't I? Do I want to watch crying babies for like 2 days or don't I? Then you decide, well, maybe I want to be a scientist. I've got a friend who's a scientist. His name is Kelvin. So you find a scientist and you follow him and you say, geez, this is what I want to do. Because what happens is kids leave school and now they're faced with the fact that they used to want to be a scientist. But now they've kind of got to matric and they're about to face the world and maybe that's not what they want to do anymore. Maybe they don't want to be an accountant. Maybe they go through the whole thing of being an accountant and they get to the end and they decide they want to be a lawyer. And their father's really happy because he's just paid for 4 years of art. So I think you have to shadow, do job shadowing and throughout your high school career until you've settled on what it is you want to do. And I really think maths and science is a thing you should try and do purely because, as I said to my kids as well, you have to find, if you want to study something, like let's say you want to study engineering, go and have a look at the job market and see what jobs there are most needed in the engineering market. If it's construction engineering, if it's, I don't know what type of engineering there is, but have a look and see which has got the most wanted ads, and then you'll know that's the one you should go for because it's likely you will get a job in that. If there is only one job advertised for the route you want to follow, trust me, you're on the wrong route.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Like radio in South Africa.
Most of us do it as a volunteer. There's very few of us that actually get paid for what we do. We do it for the love of it.
What are your plans? What are your plans for the future? Let's start short term, long term, and then tell us where people can follow you and find your blogs and stuff like that.
Well, short term, I want to make sure that my blogs are successful and that a lot of the community radio stations will pick up the interviews that I do and that, because I'm doing I've really got some awesome guys that I'm interviewing, both from a lowly point of view, as we were saying earlier, right through from an inspirational point of view, right through to the guys who, like the guys just done a solo yacht trip around the world. Those are the kind of interviews. So we've done from beginning to end, and I want to make sure my podcasts are successful. I love being on Actionsville FM. I've watched it grow just in 2-3 weeks from a station that had so little we couldn't even wear headphones to today we wore our headphones for the first time. And
You're still wearing them.
My mum gave me. My mum gave me this suitcase, and when she died, and I've got my headphones and everything go with me when I go to the studio. So I've been carrying my headphones in my little suitcase like you're going to school. I've been carrying my suitcase to the studio every day, and today we wore our headphones for the first time.
Nice.
Long term, Keith retires next year, and then we want to ride our bikes around the world for a couple of years because he's a motorbike rider, and his Harley's everything to him. So we want to retire and basically we want to first do the UK, then Europe, then the States, and then retire, either here or overseas. We're not sure yet. So that's what we want to do. And certainly broadcasting from wherever we get to could be just something that is just so amazing. And of course, to be on your show regularly as well, as you know, you and I have just always been in love with each other. And nobody could ever understand that. It's like, where do you two come from? It's like, we could talk for hours.
No, but I seriously think on that note, on that note, we actually really do need to do a weekly feature, I think, with you, and actually play some of your interviews because your interviews are like really good. Now, tell us where we can find the blogs.
The blogs are on Facebook. It's called Life is a Beach, not a bitch, a beach, like that thing that has waves. Life is a beach, and you'll recognize the picture because it's ducks. I collect ducks. I have on my dashboard my yellow ducks. They're all over my dashboard. I must tell you a funny story. Keith had to use my car the other day and it was pouring with rain, and when he got home he said, your ducks were in the area where the defroster comes out, and
Yeah.
he thought I'd stuck them to the windscreen, so he didn't realize he could actually just push them off because they're free to roam across the dashboard.
Yeah.
So when he turns the corner, they all rush to one side, or they rush to, so you can just imagine how happy he was about that. I'm on Actonville FM every morning from 9 to 12. You can find us, it's a streaming radio, so it's either downloadable from the Google Play Store, or on the Apple, it's on the online radio box, and you have to go to South Africa, Gauteng, Benoni. We're in Benoni with.
Don't say it too loud.
I can tell you. So we're talking about Brakpan today. And we're in an industrial park in this tiny, it's just wonderful. I love my co-presenters and I love the guys in the station because everybody's new and everybody's like kind of learning, so it's great. And of course, that's my blog is Life is a Beach, and I'm on Actonville FM. And my podcast can be found on www.sacommuter.co.za or sacommuter.com.
And very
And
soon,
that's where I put all my stories because I like to write stories as well.
and very soon, a weekly feature on RTLSA as well. I'm sure of that. We're working on it. It's going to happen.
Well,
Geniene,
I must say, if that can happen, I'd be delighted.
thank you so much for joining us. No, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know Monday night's a chill night, and I've now literally kept you out of bed. I made you get out of your pajamas, and now you got to go get back into your pajamas. But we really appreciate you taking the time out. You are thoroughly inspirational, and you really are an icon of a woman, and especially on International Women's Day, I couldn't think of a better guest to have had tonight than you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so honored. Thank you, Noel.
Right. Best of luck. And I remember your father said this to me one day, and it was just at the end of the tour, and I'll never forget these words. Your dad said to me, "May we see your name in lights one day." I echo that sentiment and send it straight back to you.
So his words, eh?
Yeah. I will never forget him saying that to me as we're saying goodbye.
And I'm sure he's listening right now.
Geniene, keep well, be safe, and we will chat to you very, very soon. Right, Geniene Preston joining us on RTLSA. What a dynamic woman she is. I tell you what, we could have spoken for another 7 hours, and we would never have run out of anything to talk about. And as we were saying in the interview as well, we are going to create a little feature where we're going to maybe like on the couch with Geniene or something once a week. And we're actually going to play some of her podcast material because it's really that interesting and that good.
You're listening to Monday Madness.